Cool.
How is everybody? Yes, it's really me, in case you're wondering. I mean, poking me here. Actual look, no hair, still no hair. I wear the hat because it's getting sunny again in LA, and it sunburns, and it's really embarrassing to have a peeling head.
That's true.
Really
that's true. That's true.
Yes, it's hat day, kids. Every day is hat day when you're bald. So how are you guys doing? What are you interested in? What compels you?
Well, they answered, what are you playing right now?
What am I playing right now? Unfortunately, I haven't been playing much because I hurt my back and I couldn't sit. But I have been playing. I've been doing more Infinity Blade 2 than I should because I can lay on my back with an iPad.
Right.
I'm finishing up a couple of games. I never completely finished Saints Row the Third. And I've been playing some really old games, Anachronauts, which no one remembers, but I really liked as a kid.
I remember that.
Well, not as a kid, as a young man. Yeah, it was one of the 3 Ion Storm games, and I always thought it was really funny. Went back to play it. Man, games play differently these days. There were no camera controls, and I couldn't figure out what to do. So, anyway, guys, feel free. Shoot with your inquiries.
I'm about a year late to the party, but I just started playing Sword and Sorcery.
Oh, Sword and Sorcery is a lot of fun.
So much fun. It's ridiculous.
Yes, my head is shiny. You know why? It's sweaty. That's what causes the... How do I feel about the Hunger Games? Apparently it came out and it has girls in it. That is the extent of my knowledge. I saw back, 10, 12 years ago, the famous Japanese film Battle Royale. That's all I need for children killing children. If it's fiction. If it's real life, then just get me a ticket. So that's how I feel about the Hunger Games. The great thing about non-motion control is if you hurt yourself, you can still play. Yeah, but still, when you do this, there's enough motion that I was sensitive enough that it actually hurt me. What do I think about AC3? I'm very, very, very excited. I didn't have the pleasure of getting to see the demo that some others did, but from what I hear, it's everything I want and more. I love the fact they picked the American Revolution because that is not what I was expecting. And I like surprises because the game industry has been slow to present those over the past few years. Mr. Sessler, do you think the game company's economy can recover later this year after popular video games develop to the respective expectations, like Operation Raccoon City? I think Raccoon City might be selling pretty well. Actually, the game industry is doing better than I would have expected. Some data just came out last week that was actually showing non-retail sales. So it included used game sales, even though that is retail, and digital sales, and it was like 1.2 or 2.1 billion. The game industry is healthy because it doesn't have to rely on Operation Raccoon City. Why did Ninja Gaiden 3 suck? Well, I'll be frank. It was the same group that made Metroid Other M, and they seem to have the same thing. Cool characters take off their masks and mope when they're supposed to be killing people and being a loner. So I'm just going to throw it out there. That's what I think happened. Some people expressed the idea that BioWare is planning to release ending DLC before the game even came out, and that's because of the protests. No, I do not think that at all. I have always wondered how they were going to try to justify some elements of DLC. No, I feel very confident the BioWare was taken a little by surprise by all the ME3 controversy, as was I. If you guys want to go check out me talking about the ending, only listen to it if you have finished ME3. You can find that in the Vox Games section of TheVerge.com. Myself and Arthur Geis and Kevin Van Ord and Francesca Reyes from various publications all discuss that. Did I hear about Robert Bowling resigning? I did. That's all I can say. He is not going to Respawn. Abby Happy is still the community manager over at Respawn. I do know that as well. Let's hope they don't get a hold of Dante. Yeah, I was wondering this. Except he's already kind of mopey. So, I mean, maybe they would make him a little stronger in that area. Who knows? I mean, we just make him mopier. You know, he just sits around, he drags his guns and his swords. Oh, like Charlie Brown with the cloud over his head. Yes, I did bring the beard. Actually, I just got the beard trimmed only a few hours ago because right before that, it takes about a week and a half, and those kind of old man hairs start to come out, and it really, people start to move away from me on the sidewalk. So I did it all for you. What do I think of the Kickstarter thing in regards to gaming? I think it's great. I think the fact that we look like we might be getting Wasteland 2 out of Kickstarter is great. I was just talking with somebody here about that, and because you're probably going to get around two, if you're Tim Schafer, 3 million out of a Kickstarter campaign, so you can't make a big budget game, and this might allow us to kind of return to some game franchises, or not franchises, some game genres that we don't have, especially the isometric strategic role-playing game or the isometric kind of turn-based action game in the lines of XCOM. I think there's some really cool things happening there. The beard will get its own Twitter when someone starts that Twitter feed, because I can't speak for my beard. Only the world can speak for my beard. When we can get another edition of the Adam Sessler Book Club? Probably have to read 2 more books. I've been bad the past year because of large things like Skyrim that look, I love games, but they do run contrary to the act of reading. So I would love to do another of the book clubs. I need nothing to happen that week, so I can't talk about the game industry.
How far into Skyrim are you? Like, how many hours?
Oh,
what level are you?
Oh, I'm level 50.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm comfortably. I'm at that point at 50 where what I have left to do. I'd rather wait for the DLC and see if I can do it and hopefully boost the level cap. I don't know. Is that a pork pie hat that I'm wearing? Yes, it is. Actually, it's a special hat. I'm very proud of it. I just had it made for me. It's a replica of Popeye Doyle's hat from The French Connection, because that is one of my most favorite movies of all time. If you haven't seen it, it is just somewhere on the other side of awesome. So I recommend it. Have you ever thought about making games for yourself? If I made a game, I would probably be the only one who would want to play it. So yeah, I mean, I've always dreamt of, it would be cool if I go work on that game, but I'm probably better being the cranky pants talking about somebody else's games. I'll probably, yeah, that's all I can say to that right now. And the Kelsey Grammer of the gaming industry, as in his poor decision making with women and driving. I don't know how to take that one. Let's see. Yes, I do know that Christian Allen is making a tactical shooter. I have not checked what this Kickstarter funds are, but I will look into that. Have I ever played the original Spyro games? Yes, I love Spyro 2. In fact, actually, my favorite part about, I can't remember if all 3 of the first Spyros had this, but I think the first 2. The guitarist from The Police did the music, and I'm blanking on his name.
Oh,
right in front of all the kids.
Why am I blanking?
Yeah.
Andy Summers.
Yeah, I believe it was Andy Summers, was it?
Or Stuart Copeland.
It's Stuart Copeland.
Stuart Copeland.
Stuart Copeland did the music, and I remember not knowing that. Just going, God, the music in these games are so good.
Either. Huh.
Yeah, and it's really, yeah, I love the Spyro games. Come on, guys, throw it at me. What more do you got?
Bring it on, guys. Ask away. Game question time. Bring it on.
Do you believe that the Wii U will become a big console contender when it's finally released? No. I hate to be the poopy pants on that one. I could change my mind come E3, but their messaging last E3 was so bad on this device. I don't even understand what that interactivity between the tablet with the screen and the TV, how that's really going to be explored in games. The other issue is they have to rename it. If Nintendo wants to be as successful as they were with the Wii, they have to bear in mind that a lot of that audience that bought the Wii, grandmothers, people that had never played games before, and they don't know that the Wii U even exists. And by having the name Wii in it, they're probably not going to realize it is an entirely separate console, or they'll say, hey, I already have one of those Wiis. And we all know that, look, it's not just a joke. A lot of people bought Wiis and didn't engage with them that much, and that is not going to incentivize people outside of gamers to get the other Wii. I also think that releasing it this year, and if they do release it this year, may not be the best thing because the economy still is slowly recovering. And when we're looking at Sony and Microsoft next year, at the very outside, maybe 2014, things should be better. And I think it's a more fertile market for consoles to be released in. Do I think the PS Vita is worth it? Not yet, but I love it as a piece of technology. I think just kind of wait and see if that roster of games is something that appeals to you. I also like calling it the Wii U as an homage to that one character in the Kung Pao movie. Yes, I would love to think that that's how Nintendo is naming their consoles because they're so damn arbitrary about it, that might as well be it. Do you remember a video game system? Oh, yeah, Vectrex. I mean, can you really call Vectrex a system? I mean, yes, there was a system, but it's because you overlaid the TV with things.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean that was about as analog as you can make digital.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never actively pursue trying to play it again. Wow. A question we mean asking ourselves, Wheezy and the Swish, I bet was 5 years ago. Have you kept in contact with either of your old co-hosts, Lauren or the lovely Kate? I do see Lauren Fielder from time to time because she does stay active in the gaming industry. Kate Patello, unfortunately, I wish her all the best. I don't know where she is, and I hope she's doing wonderfully. If I could play only one game for the rest of my life, what would it be? That's so much better than what's your favorite game of all time. Only play one game for the... Does this game have DLC, or do I have to play it as is? Because if it doesn't have DLC, I think it would have to be a platformer, because somehow I find those to be eminently replayable. And if that was a platformer, it would probably still be a Mario, either maybe Mario Galaxy or Super Mario World. Maybe Mario 3D Land. Yeah, that's about as good. Yours would be Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I think I would get bored after a decade, I would think. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Yes, they should call it the Wii 2. And then there can also be the Wii Vu, because they want to have a polite console and one that's a little bit more casual. In your opinion, what is the worst game you have ever played? Oh, Aquaman. There's another game called Drake of the 99 Dragons that... wow, that game was bad. In fact, if you actually go back, well, obviously the mullet of Aquaman became what we give the worst game awards. If you listen to my vitriol in the Drake of the 99 Dragons review, it's actually worse than the Aquaman review. So that probably is the worst game. Yeah, that's another good point. If you can only play one game for the rest of your life, Super Smash Bros. Requires other people, unless you can do that single-player section. That's sad. That's more like Sart. Like, oh no, I have to play a bad game by myself when I could play it with other people. I guess hell is no people if you have Super Smash Brothers. Yeah, that's it. Can you make a shout out for me? That would be Josh M203 _ between the Josh and the M203. Hope that floated your boat. And my prediction for the worst game of 2012. See, it's hard to pick things like that because, okay, back in the old days, there was like good games and there were B games.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We got that with the PS2 and the Xbox. Now we have kind of these large AAA games and this shovelware that I don't even know exists. And it's primarily on like the DS and the Wii. And, I don't go to that section of the game store. It's kind of like the section of the video store that only adults could go into, but this is because there's so much suckage in there. So I can't predict yet what's going to be the worst. Although Ninja Gaiden 3 and Raccoon City seem to be doing pretty well in that category. Let's see. What's my favorite Mortal Kombat character? I think Scorpion 2. I mean, I always wanted to do a sketch where, like, what Scorpion does when he's not in Mortal Kombat, and I had this idea that, like, he's a bellhop at kind of a mid-range hotel, and he goes, "Your bags are here!" And he brings him out. No one ever did that sketch, probably because I suggested it. BioShock Infinite, thoughts thus far? I just did a soapbox on it. I cannot wait for this game. There's just so many things about this game that are just uniquely appealing to me. I love its setting. I love the logic. I love the art direction of Nate Wells and the amount of thought that he put into it. If you go back to our videos that we have on the site, the first one for the George Washington robotic peppermill gun thing, and when you realize that as you're shooting off his his metallic face, and underneath it are wooden teeth, I mean, that level of detail and thought, just, that's what makes that game so exciting to me.
I'm actually afraid to look at any of those videos because I'm so looking forward to it.
There's so little video in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like we didn't produce it, they did.
Right,
So
right.
It definitely has. They know not to spoil anything.
Yeah, that'll be the game that gets me off Skyrim.
Exactly. What is your opinion of current motion interactive gaming? Where would you like to see it go? I would like to see it go somewhere interesting. I'm not saying that they're bad, but I think they're very narrow. And I'm interested to see what happens with the Star Wars game, because that's kind of one that kind of is going to ask more of the player and see if it becomes really engaging. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with motion gaming, because I think it brought in a great audience, and I like the fact that it does give exercise for people. Just the games themselves aren't my cup of tea. And I do like tea in a cup. What's my thoughts on the Devil May Cry reboot that's being released later this year? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, I kind of like the Devil May Cry series. I think that Capcom, outside of the Street Fighter games, needs to get in a room and have a chat with themselves about the games they're making, because they have amazingly good talent, but they keep on putting out a product that's like 80% there. Or in the case of some, 40% there. So I would like to think if they're going to take such a loved franchise and character, that they really kind of think through how they can make it fresh, how they can make it playable, and how it can be kind of up to the standards of other games, especially other games that are being made in the West. If you could be Ezio or Altair, who would you be? Altair. I don't know why. Because he's quiet. I'm so quiet that I'm like him in that regard. Do you think Borderlands 2 will outdo itself than the previous game? Anyone know if the embargo's up on Borderlands 2? Am I allowed to talk about it?
I'll say
Maybe. It should be good. Anyway. You ever play games online with Morgan or Blair? Ever so often. I'm not online all that much. I've joked before that I like to play games to get away from people. I get really neurotic when I'm playing online because there's this thing right outside of what I'm doing called life, and sometimes it calls for me, and I feel bad if I'm playing with other people, and I don't like to ditch them if we're playing co-op. I don't want to just kind of screw over a team if we're playing first-person shooters, so I prefer to play with strangers because I never know who I pissed off. So, let's see. What do you think about live currency trading in MMO games? I assume you mean like what they're doing in Diablo 3. I'm curious to see how that one works. When they first announced it, I was in the room and my jaw hit the floor. And then as time went on, it's like, someone was going to do it. Probably it's a good thing that Blizzard goes first because there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on them, and I think there's a better sense of trust that they're not being shady. So, did I ever play Zork? I did, and I was terrible at it. Text-based games. Wait, hold on, Zork. Yeah, Zork was text-based.
Yep.
What was the arcade game that kind of sounded like Zork? Gorf.
Gorf.
God, that game was so impossible. Never made sense to me. Oh, there. Let's see. Have I heard of the game Whiplash for the PS2? I actually don't know if I have. I honestly don't know. Probably at one point I went, yes, that's Whiplash for the PS2. And then events unfolded and just somehow I forgot about it. Do I miss text-based RPGs like Earthbound? In theory, I do. In practice, I don't know how I played them. Hence the Zork. And yes, I think that would be fun to try a MUD one more time. I think that would be kind of fun. Oh, yeah, MUDs for Life from Erebus AD. I like that. Based on multiplayer, would you prefer the COD series or Battlefield? I just couldn't care less about either. It's just, oh my God, it's just like every year, COD, it's this. They're both very fine games. I prefer cooperative multiplayer, just because I get my ass handed to me when I play either one of the other two. So, let's see. What is the most fun feature I've ever seen in games? Wow.
Well, that's not vague at all, or tough.
I remember one of the things I loved was in Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. Once you get the Soul Reaver and you reave souls, it's really satisfying. So I would say that's my first memory of something that I just couldn't. There's like, I'll just keep doing this all day long. Whiplash was about a weasel. That's right. Whiplash was about a weasel attached to a bunny by a chain. I actually completely remember that. I remember who did the review. Her name was Carrie Kemp, and she worked at Tech TV, and we were X-Play, and she did the video review for Whiplash. I completely remember that. Good for you, young rememberer of the game Whiplash. I have no idea who made it. If you remember, let me know. I'm trying to remember myself. COD is for people that don't like realism. Battlefield is for those who do. I have not been to war. I will say this firsthand. Have not been to war. I have this funny feeling. It's not much like Battlefield. Just gonna, hey, if you have, chime in on that one because your empirical knowledge trumps mine. Do you think BioWare choosing to change or add the ending of Mass Effect 3 will open up future issues regarding a game's ending? I completely do. I completely do. Like I said, go listen to that video. It's not something I'm very happy about. I quite like the ending of Mass Effect 3. I am somewhat understanding of those who didn't like the ending, but then again, I didn't like the election in 2004. And I didn't try to go for a recall, okay? That's all. And trust me, that changed my life those next 4 years. Grand Theft Auto 5, just throwing it out there. Grand Theft Auto 5, just throwing it back. I bet you said something else about that. I don't know what. What's more important for a game, to have good story or good gameplay? I like this question. I would always have said good gameplay. Who cares? If you want a good story, go read a book. I think it's completely changed, and I think right now it's almost they're very intertwined. That you want to motivate your gameplay. That we are so sort of attuned to good gameplay mechanics, but you get used to what they are. You can only change up the gameplay so much in the course of a game, but if you motivate it with story, it then doesn't become sort of that abstract action of, okay, I'm going to go through this combo, or I'm going to play the game in this particular way. It does help create more of an illusion, what is basically a rather repetitive act. So the two really have to be there together. What's the most challenging game you have ever played? Life. I've played quite a few. I'm trying to think of what really gives me a headache. Did you do anything lately, Rob?
Super Meat Boy.
Super Meat Boy. Boy, that's one. Actually, there's a game that I know is going to be very challenging, but I can't wait to play it. It just came out today. It is on the PlayStation Network. Closure.
Oh, yes.
It won for the Independent Games Challenge. I would love to give a shout out to that team. They were the big winners. Really, really cool game. It is, for what you're going to spend on it, you're going to get a lot of game because it's going to be that challenging. Yeah, definitely give that a look. I believe it's widely available as of today.
You're correct.
Cool. Yes, I remember when the band Journey had a video game too. I once had him talk with the guy who worked on that game. Yeah. This is on a completely side note. I don't know why, but I for the past 3 hours, I've had total eclipse of the heart stuck in my head. So if anyone wants to start humming Journey right now and help me deal with this problem, I would appreciate that. Yeah. Someone has asked me about this, the Chipway Magnet now ever being seen on YouTube. My buddy, who I think has all the tapes, lives here in Los Angeles, and we have chatted about this. There's a lot of people who are in that show who may not want to be seen in that regard or look at themselves that young and eyes filled with hope ever again. But I might be able to pull a few snippets from that. Let's see. Was there ever a game that had such an emotional ending that you could not stop thinking about it for days? Yes. It's called Mass Effect 3. There have been a couple. I mean, obviously, anything that comes from Team Eco, but that is just such the go-to answer. It was not Final Fantasy VII. That did not make me ponder much.
How did you feel in the original BioShock at the "Would you kindly" moment?
Oh no! I mean, that is. I mean, I think "Would you kindly" might be one of the greatest moments in games. I think the only thing a lot of people say the section that follows it is subpar to what precedes it, and I think unfortunately it is such an incredible moment. You kind of know we're not going to hit that peak again, but it is. Yeah, that is. I mean, I think I was about 2-3 weeks behind everyone else, and it still surprised me. It was like crying game. Ooh, that's not a guy, or that is a guy. It's not a girl. Everyone kind of kept it really quiet. I like to say that's the ending of Mass Effect 3 too. She has a penis. Yeah, BioShock 2 was a disappointment. I mean, I don't think it was that bad. Though it's worth pointing out, BioShock 2 was not made by the team that made BioShock and is making BioShock Infinite. Is the faster your internet make for better or worse for Xbox Live? Better? Faster? I think it would. Every time a new game comes out, I feel like I have to beat it quick as possible because I'm scared people are going to spoil the ending. I know what you mean. That's why I actually, in the case of Mass Effect 3 and some other games, that's why I like to review them, because there's only about 20 people in the U.S. that have a copy of it that can spoil the ending, and we don't talk to each other because we're playing the game. So, I completely understand how you feel about that one. What is the best type of game in your opinion? This has changed from generation to generation. I think the RPG is probably at its finest moment. in this generation because of the way it can take storytelling, it can take gameplay, and it can create that sense of space. That doesn't mean every RPG is good, and that doesn't mean that only RPGs are good. But I think that there's a consistency in how things have been made. Also, what qualifies as an RPG is getting more complicated. Because, BioShock, when it came out, remember those reviews that said it has RPG elements? Well, that's one of those games with RPG elements. Fallout 4, do you know anything about it? Yes. No, I don't even know if it exists. They just kind of finished up that Skyrim thing.
We got no DLC yet at all.
Well, it's because they don't plan to have frequent DLC, but
Yeah.
they plan to have substantive DLC.
Yes, that's true.
So, yeah, I think the longer we wait, the better. I mean, if we can get something like Shivering Isles for it, ta-ta. Dragon's Lair? Or was there an earlier one? An earlier one, Dragon's Lair? Remember Dragon's Lair 3D? That's another one of the worst games I ever played. That game was borderline unplayable. No, it was unplayable. I couldn't play it. Let's see. According to its own acronym, any game can be an RPG. That's a very good point. You tend to play a role in most games. I guess, except for real-time strategy. No, I guess you play the commander of all things. Maybe they're planning to make epic super flame armor for Skyrim. That's why it's taking so long. Well, I just hope they have dragon armor. Well, no, they have that, but so I can ride a dragon. Remember the horse armor? That didn't work. Shh, Adam. Shh. Let's see. Dragon's Dogma does look interesting. Anything called Dragon's Dogma? Sure, let's give it a shot. I mean, I guess if they sound like Sean Connery, dragons can be very dogmatic. So, but if they sound like Pete's dragon, no, they're more whimsical and flighty. Yes, WoW has had a heck of a lot of expansion packs. Let's see. How do you think about the protest to BioWare? Which they're going to send 402? Someone's going to send 402 cupcakes to BioWare?
Yes.
Okay, at least that's better than insulting people and their families. Tip to the internet. People are more responsive to cupcakes than to F-bombs. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if they did a study. I think they may have. I'm more receptive to beef jerky than to cupcakes or F-bombs, just so everyone knows. What big name game coming this year doesn't have me excited? The World Series. I don't know. There's probably something. There probably is something. Because it doesn't have me excited, it's in that other part of the brain where the less exciting things tend to reside. Let's see. You haven't had beef jerky in a while? No, you resolve that problem. And don't get the stuff in the bag. Get the fresh stuff. Stuff that's jerked correctly. Deer jerky, not too bad, if you like deer. Nintendo needs to make another F-Zero. Nintendo just needs to make some more games. And they need to kind of deal with broadening franchises. Because I love my Mario, but still. Someone's holding something up there.
Takedown Kickstarter?
Takedown Kickstarter. Is it evil? Is it evil?
Or is there a Kickstarter for something called Takedown that we don't know
Takedown.
about?
Yes. The Christian gentleman. Yes. I'll just look. There's a game called Takedown. It's on quick Kickstarter. Sorry, the coffee. I need more coffee. Guys, make sure you check it out. There's a lot of potential there. Let's see. God, when was the last? Was the last F-Zero? I believe that was for the GameCube. It was good.
Yeah, that was the last one.
Yeah. You would have thought with the Wii that they would have wanted to do it, but God, to maintain that frame rate, I bet it would look really good. Let's see. What would be Sessler's game? A land where people give you hugs and your back doesn't hurt. I want that kind of it's a very, very simple RPG. It's a very one. Is there a return of Shad Grimgravy in our future? Probably not. You have no idea what that character does to my throat. And the one that I did on the streets of Tokyo where you don't see the part where the cops are trying to arrest us constantly. It was also 105 degrees out, and with the humidity that was even worse than that. I thought, I think I've done what I can and really explored all the emotional depth that can be found in Shad Grimgravy. Maybe I'll do a female version, Sheila Grimgravy, and we can go somewhere else with that. Will they ever make a Star Wars Battlefront 3? This is probably the single most asked question I get in email and stuff like that. I don't know. There's that whole Star Wars The Old Republic thing over there, but, we don't have a ton of Star Wars games because there were, at one point, too many Star Wars games out there.
Battlefront was fun, though.
Oh, it was. Oh, Battlefront. And I think that with what people have learned with multiplayer design in the past few years, I would love to have seen that applied to Battlefront. But just because there's a paucity of Star Wars games, I think there's a reason for that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's not coming down anytime soon. Usually when I say that, it turns out it's coming out. So take heart to that.
Last couple of questions. We'll wrap up.
Why is Woody Harrelson hosting G4? I don't know. Is that supposed to be me or is it a joke? Who knows? I'll try a real question now. Just heard Mass Effect 3 ending discussion podcast you're in with other ME3 reviewers. Just want to say thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you for saying thank you. Most people say things that have you in it. It just doesn't be preceded with thank. So.
And that's probably a great place to say goodnight, Randall. And on a happy note.
Anyway, guys.
Yay.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you for joining us, gang.